Shalom, 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 Israel. This is Captain Paul Israel from Kingdom Builders of Israel LLC, and today's class topic is going to be on Yahshua Words of Wisdom, Part 5. Again, Israel, today's class topic is going to be on Yahshua's Words of Wisdom, Part 5. Okay, Israel, so this is going to be a good class lesson to discuss due to the fact that our people don't have the proper understanding on the parable of the wheat and the tares parable. Okay, so this class lesson is going to go into basically a discussion about this understanding on the parable of the wheat and tares that Yahshua the Mashiach was explaining to his 12 disciples. Okay, so Israel, get out a pen and notepad, because this is going to be a good lesson to discuss on the matter concerning about this parable on the wheat and the tares understanding. Okay, so this is going to be another part of Yahshua's Words of Wisdom video series lesson. Okay, so we're going to start out in the book of Matthew chapter 13 verse 24 to get the understanding of Yahshua the Mashiach's parable concerning the wheat and tares. Okay, so we're going to start out in the book of Matthew, which is in the New Testament. Okay, so this is the book of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 24. And of course, in general, we go off the King James Version Bible only on this platform. Okay, for my new viewers that don't understand how this channel is ran. Okay, we go off the King James Bible understanding. Okay, the King James Version Bible. Okay, so we're going to start out again in the book of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 24. It says, of course, in general, this is Yahshua the Mashiach, the Black Messiah, speaking to his 12 disciples on the matter on this parable concerning the wheat and tares understanding. Okay, so again, Matthew chapter 13, verse 24. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which soweth good seed in his field. So Yahshua the Mashiach is giving the understanding of a particular man sowing a good seed in the field. So Yahshua the Mashiach is giving a parable understanding on a man who is going to be, of course, a so-called black farmer sowing a good seed in his field. Okay, and this seed is going to a seed of grain. This seed is going into a grain of wheat. Okay, so this is the understanding. Okay, so it says the kingdom of heaven. So the kingdom of heaven, which is of course in general is going to be established on earth, is going to be what? Pushing off righteousness. This particular man who is a black farmer is now sowing a grain of seed to be established in the earth. Okay, and this grain of seed is supposed to be going into the wheat, a grain of wheat of understanding. Okay, so it says the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man that soweth good seed. So the kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth is going to be pushing off, of course, in general, Yahweh's righteousness. And it's going to be a good thing that's going to be established on earth. Just like it's going to be a good thing for a good grain of wheat to be established on earth. Because you could use the seed of grain for good things to be eaten. Okay. So Christ, the Black Messiah, is just giving a compare and contrast between the kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth and also this good grain that's going to be planted in the earth. Okay, which is going into this seed. In actuality, this seed is really getting into the understanding of the children of Israel. Okay, the children of Israel in metaphorical sense is this good seed, which is going into this grain of wheat. Eventually, this good seed is going to be grown to be in turn the grain of wheat. But right now it's noticed as a good seed. This good seed is going into primarily the children of Israel. Okay, and this man who is this black farmer right? This black farmer is metaphorical for Yahweh. Okay, so let's read this again, but I'm going to break the metaphor down in proper understanding what Yahshua the Mashiach is getting into. It says, another parable put he forth unto them, saying. So Yahshua the Mashiach is saying this understanding in the book of Matthew chapter 13, verse 24. The kingdom of heaven, right? The kingdom of heaven, which Yahweh will establish on earth, is likened unto a man which soweth good seed. This man that soweth good seed is going into Yahweh. Okay, Yahweh is the one that established the children of Israel to be what? On earth. So that's what it's saying in real time understanding. Yahweh is the one who ordained the children of Israel to be established to be that good seed on earth. Because the children of Israel was supposed to be the light to the world, or the light to the Gentile nations, to learn how to walk in Yahweh's righteousness, which is following Yahweh's commandments. So again, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which soweth good seed in his field, because Yahweh's kingdom is going to be established on earth. So the kingdom of heaven is going to be likened unto Yahweh. That's what it's really saying, because the kingdom of heaven is Yahweh. Okay, but he's going to have his son ruling and reigning the earth, understanding. Okay, he's going to have his son Yahshua the Mashiach ruling in that New Jerusalem, understanding on earth. But again, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto Yahweh, which soweth the good seed, or soweth the good seed of the children of Israel in his field, and this field is metaphorical for the earth. Okay, so the kingdom of heaven is likened unto Yahweh, which soweth good seed of the children of Israel in his earth, which is going into in his field. So in his field is really establishing the earth terminology. Okay, so that's what it's really saying, because Yahshua the Mashiach spoke in parables. He spoke in code. He spoke in metaphorical understanding where a lot of people would not grasp what he's really saying. But that's really what he's saying. Okay, that this kingdom of heaven is likened unto Yahweh, because Yahweh is establishing his kingdom to be established on earth, which soweth good seed, because now Yahweh is going to sow this good seed, who are the children of Israel, to be established on earth, to be his chosen people in his field, or in his earth, or on his earth. Okay, so that's what it's really saying. Okay, so now we got this metaphorical breakdown of this understanding in the book of Matthew chapter 13, verse 24. So let's go to the next verse. Okay, the next verse says, Matthew chapter 13, verse 25. And this is, of course, the continuation of Yahshua the Mashiach speaking to his 12 disciples. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. So you see this? So you see this, Israel? Let's read this again. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. So while this particular black farmer, he had men to help tend to the field. He had workers. So it says, but while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. So again, so while these men who were the servants of this black farmer, because these servants who are the men were the ones that was tending to this black farmer's field, right? They slept, right? So when they slept, it says his enemy came, meaning the enemy of the black farmer came and sowed tares among the wheat. So now the enemy of this black farmer sowed poisonous grain into the field, because tares are poisonous. Okay, so this enemy of the black farmer, which is, of course, in general, the black farmer is really going into Yahweh. Okay, it says his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. So this enemy is metaphorical for the Gentile nations. Okay, the Gentile nations are Yahweh's enemy. Okay, that's what it's saying. Because the men that were sleeping, this metaphorical for the prophets. Because it was a portion of time where the prophets were going to be raised up down the road years later. That's why we have the Hebrew awakening right now, because the prophets were asleep. The children of Israel were asleep for some time. Okay, based upon captivity conditions. So now the enemy, who are those Gentile nations, now came in to now what? Sow bad seed into the field, or they sowed bad seed into the earth. And this bad seed, which is metaphorical for these tares, right? These tares of grain is metaphorical for sin. Okay? It's metaphorical for sin. So it's saying his enemy came and sowed sin among the wheat, because the children of Israel become defiled when they commit sin. So that's what it's saying. But while men slept, while the prophets slept, meaning while this Hebrew truth was not promoted to the people who are the children of Israel because of captivity constraints. So now the Gentile nations, which is metaphorical for this enemy, right, came and sowed sin, which is going into these tares, among the wheat. Okay? Sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. So the seed of evil, sin, has been sowed amongst the wheat, who are the children of Israel. Okay, and the Gentile nations went his way, meaning they left undetected. Okay, so this enemy is going into certain men or a particular man, leaving the scene undetected, as if nothing just happened. Okay, so that's what it's saying. So it's saying, but while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. So now let's see what these tares are really getting into. Okay, but it's saying sowed tares. So the order for the sowed tares, it has to start from a seed, right? So these evil seeds is metaphorical for sin. Okay, that's what it's saying. So before we can get further understanding what this breakdown is saying, we're now going to break down what is wheat getting into. Okay, we're going to break down what this wheat right here is getting into in the book of Matthew chapter 13 verse 25. Okay, because many people don't know what wheat is primarily used for. It says most wheat is typically milled into flour and is then used to make a wide range of foods, including breads, muffins, noodles, pasta, biscuits, cakes, cookies, pastries, cereal bars, sweet and savory snack foods, and crackers. So this is what wheat is mostly made for, okay? And we got to understand that it's benefits of using this particular wheat, okay, for the health of the people, right? So let's see the downward side of the tares. Okay, because tares is a grain that is formed into a weed. Okay. Okay, it says tares. This is going to the definition of what tares is. And another word for tares is going to be called the darnel. So tares has two different names. It says tares, it says the darnel. Okay, so it says tares is a weed which grows among grain, particular wheat. The grains resemble those of wheat, so that it is very difficult to separate them by sifting. And as a result, they are sown together with the wheat and grow with it in the field. So another word for tares will be darnel. So it says darnel flour or tare flour. Darnel flour is poisonous and gives a bitter taste to bread in which it has been mixed. Okay. The tares do no harm to birds, especially to doves. Then it says nobody would consciously sow tares in his field, because nobody would consciously sow tares in their field, because tares are poisonous to the human body. Okay. And we're going to prove that from this other scholar on this article right here. This is from the pewblog.com. This is a article from this particular person, okay, named John Kurt. Okay. Let's keep scrolling down. We're gonna zoom in. Don't worry about this particular white Jesus and white disciple picture, okay? Don't worry about this. We just get into the understanding of the definition of tares, okay? So they're giving their understanding of the wheat and tare parable understanding. As you can see, it says the parable of the wheat and tares, okay? But we just getting the definition out of the tare understanding, okay? So our people don't be confused. It says tares. Tares are a weed referred to as a bearded darnel, which we already brought out that tares has another name called the darnel. Okay. Okay. Tares are a weed referred to as a bearded darnel and were almost impossible to tell from the wheat. It could also be poisonous. That's what we established in this definition right here, that the darnel or the tare, or just in general tares or darnel, is poisonous. Okay, it's not good for the human body. It says it could also be poisonous, harmful to those who ate it. It had to be separated from the wheat. And once more, it says Jesus uses real life actions that would be recognized by the listeners to teach the 12. So it's just explaining that Yahshua the Mashiach was using real life actions to his listeners, who were those 12 apostles, which we already explained earlier in the book of Matthew chapter 13, explaining that Yahshua the Mashiach was speaking to his 12 disciples. So I was just wanted to bring this out, that the tares are poisonous. Okay, so now we go back to Matthew chapter 13 verse 25. It says, but while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. So this particular man, who is metaphorical for the Gentile nations, have sowed sin in the earth. So the Israelites, who is metaphorical for the wheat, can what? Fall into that understanding, fall into sin. So it says, and sowed tares among the wheat, because in general, we as the children of Israel are Yahweh's chosen people in general. But all of us as the children of Israel are not in the right spirit. Okay, a lot of us are not living right. A lot of us just don't have the right spirit and mind to inherit the kingdom that's going to be established on earth. So that's what this is basically implying. But while men slept, but while the prophets were no longer around at the time to teach the Israelites, because the Israelites went into slavery. So now the enemy, who are those Gentile nations, they are now teaching the children of Israel how to do what? To commit sin. Okay? And we do know that when the evil seed is grown in the earth, you're going to have it blended in with the wheat. And the wheat, in the metaphorical sense, is, of course, the righteous elect who are granted salvation. Okay? So that's what it's saying. So tares among the wheat. So the wheat is metaphorical for the children of Israel, but the wheat in this context is Yahweh's righteous elect that's going to get salvation. Okay, so that's what this is getting into. Because you go back to Matthew chapter 13, verse 24, it says, another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which soweth good seed in his field. So Yahweh has established his elect that's going to get saved. This is those wheat grains that's going to get saved. His field is talking about earth. So Yahweh has established his righteous elect, the men and women and children of his choosing that he sold unto the earth to get everlasting life. Okay? But when we go to Matthew chapter 13, verse 25, but while the men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Because, yes, you have the children of Israel that's a part of the elect that's going to get salvation. But you also have the children of Israel that are not meant to get salvation. You have majority of the children of Israel overall are just not going to live right according to the Bible. They just going to do their own thing. They're just going to live and worship all these different gods out here. They're going to stay doing what they've been doing, which is conducting in sinful behavior, which they have learned from who? The Gentile nations, which is going into this enemy right here. That's who the enemy is, because the Gentile nations are the ones mainly gathering and destroying our people. Okay, with sin. That is the tool to use to destroy us as a people. But we have the tares, who are the majority of Hebrew Israelites. They rather choose to follow the Gentile practicing customs and ways, which is going into sin. Okay? Even though they are Hebrew Israelites. Even though the tares are Hebrew Israelites, but those tares are not Yahweh's elect. Okay, so that's what it's saying. Okay, because they said, because when you go to the article, it says the tare grains resemble those of the wheat, so that it is very difficult to separate them by sifting. It said, and as a result, they are sown together with the wheat and grow with it in the field. So even though, yes, you have us collectively as a group of Hebrew Israelites looking like Hebrew Israelites. Some of us may not look like Hebrew Israelites, but we are Hebrew Israelites. But primarily, Yahweh is only gathering the wheat or his elect. Even though we as the children of Israel, we have many of us. There's many Hebrew Israelites on this earth. But only Yahweh's elect, on who he has chosen to get saved, shall be saved. Okay, so that's what it's getting into. Let's go to the next verse where we have Yahshua the Mashiach still talking to the 12 disciples. Matthew chapter 13, verse 26. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So this is just going into the understanding that when the grain of wheat was grown up, right, you also had the tares also grew, because the tares had to start off from a seed base of understanding. Okay, so now you have the wheat have grown, And then also you have the tares have grown also. So when it says brought forth fruit, that's talking about the wheat. Okay, that's talking about the wheat. Okay, have grown. Okay, and then it says, then appeared the tares also. So now you have the poisonous weed have grown also. Okay, or that poisonous grain also have grown. Okay, so that's what you have in general with the whole house of Israel, because many of our people are not gravitating to the Hebrew truth. Even though we grew up amongst each other, even though we was raised by certain family members, right? But when you look at it, a lot of our family members or people that we know, they don't want nothing to do with this Hebrew truth. They don't want nothing to do with Yahweh's righteousness. But you have a small percentage of us as the children of Israel hearkening unto the words of the prophets. You have a small percentage of us hearkening unto the words of this holy Bible. Okay? Because it was meant for us to only do so. Because we are those righteous seeds that Yahweh planted in the earth to hearken unto Yahweh's words. Because he planted us to be on this earth to hearken unto his words. Okay? Because there are unrighteous seeds out here that's only hearkening unto what the Gentile nations are doing. Because they are not a part of Yahweh's seed line. They're not a part of Yahweh and Yahshua's understanding. Okay, they chose and they have been formulated to do what? Follow wickedness, which is sin. Which is basically going into these tares. Okay, which is basically going into the seed of tares. Okay, but in general, the tares, which initially had started as a seed, which is going into sin, is going into now tares being who? The unbelievers of the children of Israel. That's what this is getting into. Okay, so it said, but when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also, because again, we have majority of Hebrew Israelites not trying to follow this Bible. Okay, even though the righteous elect are amongst the wicked Hebrew Israelites, but in general, the tares are not meant to follow Yahweh's commandments. That's what it's saying, because tares in general are poisonous. You have the Hebrew Israelites in general that know that Hebrew Israelites are trying to force the majority of Hebrew Israelites to follow Yahweh's commandments. That's not going to happen, because they was not meant to follow Yahweh's commandments. Because they was raised up from an evil seed. Okay? Yahweh's only dealing with a small remnant. So that's why I try to tell people it's not about the majority of the Hebrew Israelites. It's about those who Yahweh has called to repent as a Hebrew Israelite to come unto him. Okay? So we just need to get the right information out as, you know, the people that's supposed to be teaching the ministry, so the right people who Yahweh has called can get the right understanding. Because again, the majority of our people who are the Hebrew Israelites, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, and also those of our people scattered abroad through the four corners, a lot of them are not meant to get the right understanding, because it's not going to be receptacle unto them, because Yahweh has not called for them to repent properly, because he has a small remnant that he shall save, that he's going to bring into his kingdom. This is what this parable is really getting into, that Yahshua the Mashiach is explaining to those 12 disciples. Matthew chapter 13, verse 27. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then had it tares? So the servants of the man who was this black farmer, in metaphorical, is going into Yahweh, and of course his servants is going to the prophets. Okay, and it says, so the servants who are the prophets of Yahweh, who of course this householder is going into the Most High Yah, and said unto him. So now the prophets are speaking to Yahweh. Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? So now the prophets are talking to Yahweh, saying, hey, didn't you sow good seed in the earth? Did not you bring the children of Israel to the earth to keep your laws, statutes, and commandments? Right? That was the whole purpose of that good seed being sown in the earth. So the good seed, which is going into that wheat, can now what? Metaphorical be, of course, in general, children of Israel, right? To follow commandments. That's what it's saying. Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then have it tares? So now the prophets are now speaking to Yahweh, saying, hey, didn't you bring the children of Israel to keep your law, statutes, and commandments overall, to be that chosen nation? But now you have wicked Hebrew Israelites being established on earth as well. Even though they are the children of Israel, but you have them being wicked Hebrew Israelites. That's them being referred to as being these tares. So now there's confusion going on between the prophets talking to Yahweh. Okay, because now the prophets are confused in their understanding, in this metaphor understand. That's what has been explained. Because Yahweh said children of Israel overall is his chosen people. But now the flip side is only a small percentage are Yahweh's chosen people out of the majority that he had created. Okay, so that's what it's getting into. Because the wicked Hebrew Israelites, or those unbelievers that are Hebrew Israelites, are these tares. Okay, so that's what has been established. Okay, so now the prophets, in metaphorical sense, are saying, are we not supposed to be trying to, nurture and gather the whole house of Israel collectively to return unto you, to keep these commandments? But hence we have Hebrew Israelites out there, majority, they're not hearkening unto your commandments, Yahweh. That's what the prophets are now, in metaphorical sense, are saying to Yahweh in general. All right, because the prophets are the ones going out to the highways and the byways teaching the gospel to our people, but only a small remnant are only hearkening unto the words of this Bible. Okay, so Christ now is going to explain the understanding what this means. Okay, why you have the wheat and then you have the tares, why you have righteous Hebrew Israelites and you have wicked Hebrew Israelites. Yahshua Mashiach is going to explain the understanding in this next verse. Matthew chapter 13, verse 28. He said unto them, an enemy have done this. The servant said unto him, wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? So now Yahshua Mashiach, the Black Messiah, is explaining that Yahweh in the parable is now explaining that those Gentile nations who is being referred to as this enemy have done this, have caused these tares to be formed. Meaning caused these wicked Hebrew Israelites to be wicked. Because the Hebrew Israelites overall in general are supposed to be what? Keeping Yahweh's law, statutes, and commandments. But the Gentile nations are this enemy that came in to what? Push sin throughout the earth. So now these tares have been formed because sin of evil has been established on earth, because wickedness has exceeded an all-time high. So now these tares, who are the wicked Hebrew Israelites, are now being what? Prone to do evil. Regardless of what this Bible is saying, the tares or the wicked Hebrew Israelites are choosing to live a life of sin. Regardless of what the Bible says. Okay, so the Most High Yah is saying the Gentile nations have caused this. This is why these Gentile nations are going to get judged in the future when Judgment Day occurs. Okay, because they have to get paid back on what they did to the children of Israel overall. Okay. So Yahweh said unto them, Yahweh said unto the prophets, an enemy have done this, talking about those Gentile nations have done this. The servant said unto Yahweh, wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? So now the prophets in metaphorical sense say, hey, can we now just teach the Israelites that we're chosen people? All of us going to be saved. Let's all keep these commandments. Let's all live holy and righteous as collectively as a nation, as the children of Israel. Everybody, can we all just keep Yahweh's commandments? Meaning the wicked Hebrew Israelites and the righteous Hebrew Israelites. Can we all just keep Yahweh's commandments and live happily ever after? Right? That's what the prophets are suggesting unto Yahweh. Let's see what Yahweh is going to explain to the prophets. Who are these servants? Okay, because Yahweh is going to establish order to establish which people to focus on. Okay, we're going to see what Yahweh is going to tell these servants who are metaphorical for the prophets. Let's see if he say gather all the whole nation of Israel together, whether they're wicked or righteous. Let's see. Matthew chapter 13 verse 29. Matthew chapter 13 verse 29. But he said, nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Whoa, wait a minute. You see this, Israel? So Yahweh is about separation. As you can see, Yahweh concerned telling the prophets, who are these servants who are supposed to be tending to the field, right? He's telling these servants, no, don't gather the wicked Hebrew Israelites, who are these tares, and don't gather the wheat with the tares, who are the righteous elect, right? The righteous elect are the wheat, and the wicked Hebrew Israelites are the tares. So you cannot collectively gather both of them together. You can't gather these groups together. Okay, it has to be a separation between the righteous and the unrighteous. Okay, because he's going to explain why you're not supposed to do that, to gather the righteous and the wicked together. Okay, he's going to explain. So Yahweh is explaining to the prophets that it's not a good thing to gather the wicked and the righteous together. It has to be a separation. So Yahweh is not for unity with unrighteousness. Okay, he's all about holiness, separation from evildoers. So Yahweh's concern is gathering his chosen elect, who he has called from the beginning, to be separated from the wicked Hebrew Israelites. Even though they have been walking this earth amongst the majority of evil Hebrew Israelites. But Yahweh is focused on the wheat. He's focused on his elect to enter into the kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth. So that's what it's explained. Yahweh is separating the wicked Hebrew Israelites from the righteous Hebrew Israelites. Okay. Matthew chapter 13, verse 30. This is Yahshua the Mashiach still talking to those 12 disciples. This is Yahweh speaking theoretically in this metaphor, but of course this is Yahshua the Mashiach speaking in general. Okay. It says, let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Whoa, wait a minute. You see this, Israel? Let's read this again. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. You see this, Israel? So Yahweh concern for the prophets is to gather his elect. So the gathering of Yahweh's elect to be saved is when this harvest takes place. And the time of the harvest is on Yahweh's time. right? That's going into salvation time for Yahweh's harvest to be fulfilled, to gather his remnant that's chosen for salvation. Okay, so they can go to this kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth. And when we go to this understanding right here, it says, but gather the wheat into my barn. That's talking about gather the righteous Hebrew Israelites that kept my commandments. And they're going to go into this kingdom of heaven. And this barn is metaphorical for the kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth. Now let's see the judgment on those tares. Okay, it said, and in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers are going into those holy angels. Okay, that's going into the holy angels. Okay, it says, gather ye together first the tares. So now this is going into that judgment day. This is going into that second resurrection understanding. Right? Gather ye together first the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them. That's going into the second resurrection. This is going to the judgment of those Hebrew Israelites that did not want to keep Yahweh's commandments. The Hebrew Israelites that did not want to keep Yahweh's commandments, they're going into the lake of fire. That's what it's saying. Gather ye together first the tares, who are those wicked Hebrew Israelites, the ones that did not want to keep Yahweh's commandments. They were the ones living their best life in earth in sin because they was following the ways of those Gentile nations. They was following those religion customs of the Gentile nations, was going into sin. So because they wanted to hold on to the Gentile ways, they wanted to hold on to those Gentile practices over the Bible understanding, that's foolishness. And this is why they're going to be judged in the future, right? By burning forever and ever in that lake of fire scenario. Okay? That's what it says. Gather ye together first the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them. To burn them. That's metaphorical for the lake of fire. So Christ, the Black Messiah, used this parable on the judgment of those wicked Hebrew Israelites who are resembling the righteous people, who are the children of Israel overall. But again, the children of Israel as a collective nation, they're not all going to be saved. Yes, the ones that come out of those 12 tribes in general, yes, they're going to be saved. As far as those individuals that come out of the 12 tribes of Israel, they're going to be saved. But the majority of those Hebrew Israelites coming out of the 12 tribes of Israel are not all going to be saved, because they're not hearkening unto the words of this Bible. They was not meant to follow righteousness because they were corrupt from the beginning. They was a corruptible seed from the beginning. Yahweh is only dealing with a small remnant of our people that's going to be entering into the promised land. That's going to be entering in that kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth. That's why you had that verse says, many are called, few are chosen. Few are chosen to enter the kingdom of heaven. And that's why you have the majority of Hebrew Israelites, they hate this truth. They hate this Bible because they know their works are evil. Their deeds are evil. And they know they have no chance to enter into the kingdom of heaven that's going to be on earth. Because they know they don't have that righteous understanding, because they have been living out their lust. They have been living out their sin for many years. And they refuse to hearken to the words of the prophets. They refuse to hearken to the words of Yahshua the Mashiach, the Black Messiah. They refuse to hearken to the words of Yahweh, because they rather follow those Gentile nations' customs and practice and ways. They put those ways and customs above Yahweh's ways. And that decision of those tares, who are those wicked Hebrew Israelites, is going to lead them to the lake of fire. That's what this verse is saying. And the ones who kept these commandments, and they had the good spirit, and they love Christ, they love the Black Messiah, they love Yahweh, they love the children of Israel, the ones that want to repent properly, they had love, and they wanted to share this information with their people. They put their blood and sweat and tears in this truth. They the ones that's going to be in Yahweh's kingdom, which is going into this barn that's going to be established on earth. Okay, so this barn is metaphorical for the kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth through the Black Messiah's reign on earth. See, the holy angels are the reapers, because the holy angels are documenting everything that we as the children of Israel are doing day by day. And the wicked Hebrew Israelites, they don't know that. The wicked Hebrew Israelites believe they're getting away with their sins, right? You can't escape the wrath of the Most High. Because the holy angels are these reapers. They record everything that you're doing, you Hebrew Israelites. Okay? So, you righteous Hebrew Israelites, in order for you to be considered righteous and getting into the kingdom of heaven, that means you was keeping Yahweh's commandments, and the holy angels was documenting you on living right according to the Bible. That's why you're going to be in the kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth. And also, the holy angels were recording the wicked deeds of the wicked Hebrew Israelites, right? They was documenting the wicked deeds of these wicked Hebrew Israelites. And this is why the wicked Hebrew Israelites are not going to inherit the kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth, because they was living a life full of sin without repenting. Okay? Even though the invitation theoretically was publicized unto them, right? But we do know Yahweh has a small portion of his elect that's a part of the righteous seed that's going to be granted salvation, because it was always meant for his righteous seed to inherit everlasting life from the beginning. Okay? So the tares, or the wicked Hebrew Israelites, were meant to be destroyed. Point blank, period. So Yahweh has created certain individuals on this earth to be destroyed. Point blank, period. Okay? Matthew chapter 6 verse 9. And this is another understanding that Yahshua the Mashiach was explaining to, of course, his 12 disciples on this matter when you, of course, praying to the Most High. Okay, but this is just a certain section of the prayer to the Most High and this prayer parable understanding. Okay, Matthew chapter 6 verse 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Because the righteous elect are concerned about Yahweh's name. They are concerned about living right according to the Bible. Right? Their concern is Yahweh. Their concern is not the things of this world. Their concern is not these religions. Their concern is Yahweh. Their concern is holiness. Okay, that is the concern of the prayer of Yahweh's elect. This is what Yahshua the Mashiach is explaining, that a righteous individual is going to be having this understanding when he prays, or when she prays unto the Most High Yah. Matthew chapter 6 verse 10. It says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. You see this, Israel? So Yahweh's kingdom is going to come on earth, which we established the understanding from that parable of Christ when he was speaking to those disciples concerning the wheat and tares of understanding. That wheat is going to be gathered into the barn. That wheat is going into the righteous elect that's going to be gathered to the kingdom of heaven, which is going into metaphorically that barn. So again, thy kingdom come. So Yahweh's kingdom is coming on earth to be established. See, the wicked Hebrew Israelites, they do not care about Yahweh's kingdom that's going to be established on earth. The wicked Hebrew Israelites are living in their kingdom now. That's why they can boast about their wicked deeds. That's why they can boast about their cars. That's why they can boast about their houses that they have. That's why they can boast about how much money they have, because this is the kingdom for the wicked Hebrew Israelites on this earth right now. But when Christ's kingdom get established on earth, these wicked Hebrew Israelites are going to be facing their hell, because they're going to be raised up in that second resurrection. And then before that happens, they will be judged. That's why it's a term called Judgment Day. Okay? And that's why I tell you, Hebrew Israelites, stop following the customs of these Gentile nations. Stop following your family members and what they're doing, because they are a part of the tares understanding. Okay, based upon them not hearkening unto this Bible. Because they have been deceived as thinking that they're going to inherit the kingdom without living according to Yahweh's righteousness. See, they got their understanding from the Gentile nations. See, the Gentile nations, based upon their understanding, they are very deceptive. And they promote sin to our people as if they're not promoting sin to our people. Okay? So you righteous elect, you have to separate yourself from the tares. You have to separate yourself from those wicked family members that's choosing to be wicked. It says again, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Because in the heavenly realm, where the Most High dwells at, is holiness, is righteousness. So shall the same way it's going to be established on earth, righteousness and holiness. See, the wicked Hebrew Israelites, they can't comprehend this understanding, because they believe that this is their heaven now to do evil. They promote evil. They promote sin. These things gonna lead you to the lake of fire. Point blank, period. Matthew chapter 6 verse 33. This is Yahshua, words of wisdom, understanding right here. This is the key point. I want it. But seek ye first the kingdom of Elohim and his righteousness, And all these things shall be added unto you. Whoa, 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 wait a minute. You see this, Israel? What did Christ say, the Black Messiah say? He said, first seek ye the kingdom of the Most High and his righteousness. So you got to do both, right? You got to do both. You can't just seek the kingdom of the Most High and that's it. No, you got to seek the kingdom of the Most High, which is that everlasting life on earth and that New Jerusalem, that kingdom that's going to be established on earth, understanding, and also his righteousness. You got to be seeking Yahweh's commandments. That's the righteousness understanding. And all things shall be added unto you, because when you inherit that kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth, everything that you wanted shall be added unto you. You shall live by having abundance on things that you need. You're going to be well taken care of. Because you sought out this word, you sought out truth. You open up this Bible, you examine the things that you're supposed to be walking into, which is basically following truth. You didn't follow what everybody else was doing. See, that's what the wicked Hebrew Israelites are mainly doing. They're following the world understanding. And we do know the world condones sin. We supposed to be Yahweh's chosen people. We supposed to be following righteousness. That's why Christ said this, but seek ye first the kingdom of Elohim, because when this kingdom of heaven is going to be established on earth, it's going to be pushing off Yahweh's commandments. Point blank, period. So that needs to be the number one concern for our people. They need to stop worrying about who's dating who, which celebrities dating who. They need to stop worrying about all these expensive cars, all these expensive houses. They need to stop worrying about that. That's worldly stuff. Okay? We need to be focused on surviving in these last days. We need to be focused on making sure our spirit is right so we can enter that kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth. That is supposed to be the concern. That's why Christ said, but seek ye first, the kingdom of heaven of Elohim. The wicked Hebrew Israelites are not seeking the kingdom of the Most High. And we do know that based upon their actions, their deeds. Okay? So again, these celebrities of our nation, right? They need to repent, but they're not going to, because this is their kingdom, right? This is the righteous elect hell, because we're not in our rulership, right? Because the Hebrew Israelites that's in the right spirit, they're going through hell right now. They're going through trials and tribulations. They're seeking a savior. They're seeking change. They're seeking a deliverer. They're seeking Yahweh's help. They're seeking a promised land. The wicked Hebrew Israelites are not seeking the promised land right now. They're seeking their own promised land. They're seeking their own promised land that they want to make up. Okay? They want to make up their own version of their own promised land, which is basically condoning sin. See, Yahweh's promised land is going to be condoned on his righteousness, his commandments. Okay, so that's what this parable understanding was getting into. Okay, when we get into the Matthew chapter 13 understanding. Okay, that Yahshua is explaining that Yahweh is separating the wheat from the tares. The tares are going to be destroyed and the wheat are going to inherit the barn or inherit everlasting life. And we do know now that the wheat are the righteous elect who are the children of Israel. They are going to inherit the kingdom of heaven that's going to be established on earth, because they sought out the kingdom of heaven first. They sought out righteousness first. They sought out Yahweh's commandments. But again, these tares who are the wicked Hebrew Israelites, they don't seek Yahweh's righteousness. They don't seek the kingdom of the Most High, because their kingdom is sin that they've been learning from the Gentile ways and customs and practices. Okay, Israel, so hopefully you enjoyed Yahshua Words of Wisdom Part 5 video. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this particular video. So now you should now have a good understanding of this parable on the wheat and tares going forward. That Yahweh's concern is for a small remnant of his people who are metaphorically this wheat, who are part of the righteous elect, consisting of men, women, and children. Okay? And those tares, we do know now that those tares are going into the wicked Hebrew Israelites, who are those unbelievers. Okay? So other than that, Israel, hopefully you enjoyed this lesson on Kingdom Builders of Israel LLC YouTube channel. And there's going to be many more lessons on this channel, Israel. Other than that, shalom.